Cole Parker had been an FBI agent for 15 years. He was one of the best, sharp, fearless, and respected. He specialized in tracking down the most dangerous criminals, and his record was almost spotless. But everything changed on a rainy night in Washington, D.C. The sirens screamed behind him as he sped down the highway, gripping the steering wheel of his black SUV. Red and blue lights flashed in the rearview mirror. His heart pounded. They were coming for him. Not because he had committed a crime, but because someone had set him up. Just 24 hours earlier, Cole was living his normal life. He had no idea that by the next day, the same people he had worked with for years would be hunting him like an animal. It all started with a phone call. Cole had been at his desk in the FBI headquarters when his boss, Director Alan Mercer, called him into his office. Mercer was a tough man in his 60s, known for his strict discipline. "Sit down, Parker," Mercer said, his voice cold. Cole sat, noticing the tension in the air. "We have a problem," Mercer continued. "Someone leaked classified FBI documents to an unknown hacker group. The leak exposed multiple undercover agents." Cole frowned. "Who do we think is behind it?" Mercer slid a file across the table. "Take a look." Cole opened it. His stomach tightened. His name was on the file. The report claimed he had accessed the FBI's classified database at 2:13 a.m. the previous night, something he hadn't done. "This is a mistake," Cole said, his pulse rising. "I never did this." Mercer leaned back in his chair. "Then explain how your login details were used to access the files." "I don't know," Cole said, "but someone's framing me." Before Mercer could respond, the door burst open. Two armed FBI agents stepped in, their guns aimed at Cole. "Stand up," one of them barked. Cole slowly raised his hands. His mind was spinning. "You're under arrest for treason and unauthorized access to classified documents," the agent continued. Cole's blood turned cold. Handcuffed and shoved into a black van, Cole sat in silence, his mind racing. This was insane. Someone was setting him up, but why? As the van moved through the streets of D.C., he noticed something strange. The route they were taking wasn't leading to FBI headquarters. His instincts screamed danger. The agent sitting next to him, Agent Brock, had been his colleague for years. But now Brock avoided eye contact. Cole leaned in. "Where are we going?" Brock didn't answer. Then the van slammed to a stop. Before anyone could react, the driver's side window shattered. A bullet pierced the driver's skull. Panic erupted inside the van. The agents scrambled to react. But before they could, the doors flew open, and masked gunmen opened fire. Cole acted on instinct. He dropped to the floor, kicked Brock's knee sideways, grabbed his gun and rolled out of the van. Bullets flew past him as he sprinted into a dark alley. He could hear the gunmen shouting behind him. He was running for his life. Somewhere in a high-rise office, a man in a dark suit watched the scene unfold through security cameras. He smiled. "Phase 1 is complete," he said into the phone. A voice on the other end replied, "Good, now. Make sure Parker never finds the truth." The man nodded and ended the call. Cole Parker was officially a wanted fugitive, and he had no idea that the people hunting him weren't just his former colleagues. They were much worse. Cole ran. The cold night air burned in his lungs as he dashed through the alley, his heart pounding. Behind him, gunfire erupted, echoing through the streets. The masked men weren't FBI agents. They were professionals, assassins. But who sent them? He ducked into a side street, crouching behind a dumpster. He needed a plan. His phone was gone, his FBI badge useless, and now both the government and an unknown enemy wanted him dead. Then his mind clicked. There's only one person who can help me. Cole's old partner, Sarah Blake, was one of the few people he trusted. She was a sharp, no-nonsense FBI agent, known for her instinct in spotting lies. But even she had believed the evidence against him. He had to convince her. But first, he needed to stay alive long enough to reach her. Using the cover of the dark streets, he stole a baseball cap from a street vendor's cart and pulled it low over his face. With the city on high alert, his face was likely all over the news. After 20 minutes of moving cautiously through the shadows, he reached a gas station. He waited until a man in a blue pickup truck stepped out, then quickly slipped into the passenger seat. The driver turned back and froze. "Drive," Cole ordered, pointing Brock's stolen gun at him. I don't want to hurt you." The man, wide-eyed, raised his hands. Okay, where to?" "Union Station, now." The man gulped and obeyed. As they drove, Cole reached for the truck's radio. He tuned into the news. "The FBI has issued an urgent manhunt for former Special Agent Cole Parker. He is considered armed and extremely dangerous. Citizens are advised to report any sightings immediately." Cole exhaled sharply. "They're painting me as a monster." Suddenly the driver spoke. "You're him, aren't you? The guy they're hunting?" Cole tensed. "Just keep driving." The man hesitated. Then his hand moved toward his phone. Cole reacted fast. He snatched the phone and threw it out the window. "Don't," he warned. The man swallowed hard and nodded. At Union Station, Cole slipped into the crowd. His plan was to find Sarah before the FBI did. He kept his head down, blending in. But then his gut tightened. Something wasn't right. His eyes scanned the station. Too many men in dark suits. Too many people pretending not to watch him. FBI agents. They were waiting for him. Cole cursed under his breath. "They knew I'd come here." A voice rang through the station speakers. "Cole Parker, you are surrounded. Surrender now!" Heads turned. People gasped. "I need an exit now." Then he saw it. A janitor's cart left unattended near a maintenance door. Without thinking, Cole grabbed a mop, hunched his shoulders, and walked toward it like a worker. The agents were scanning the crowd, but their eyes were looking for him, not a janitor. He pushed the cart past them, heart hammering. 5 steps. 10 steps. Almost there, then a voice behind him. "Hey, you!" Cole froze. He turned slightly. A tall, dark-haired agent was frowning at him. "You seen this man?" The agent held up a photo of Cole. Cole swallowed hard. "No, sir," he muttered, keeping his head low. The agent studied him for a second, then nodded. Cole forced himself to walk normally until he reached the maintenance door. He shoved it open and sprinted through. Behind him, he heard the agent yell, "Hey, stop!" The chase was on. Meanwhile, Agent Sarah Blake sat at her desk, staring at her screen. She had known Cole for years. He was loyal, brave, but now the evidence against him was overwhelming. She clenched her fists. "It doesn't make sense." Then a message popped up on her computer, a secure file transfer. Sarah clicked it. A hidden FBI surveillance video appeared on the screen. It showed the classified data being stolen, but the man in the footage wasn't Cole. It was someone else. A man wearing a face mask that looked exactly like Cole's. Sarah's blood ran cold. A deepfake? A digital disguise? Then she realized something terrifying. If someone went this far to frame him, it means Cole is in danger. Real danger. She grabbed her phone. Cole ran through the back alleys, desperate to escape the FBI's tightening grip. His luck wouldn't last forever. Then his stolen phone buzzed. A blocked number. He hesitated, then answered. Hello? A familiar voice. "Cole!" Sarah's voice was urgent. "You were set up. I have proof." Relief hit him, but only for a second. "Meet me," he said. "I can't. They're watching me. But listen, someone powerful is behind this. You need to find a man named Vincent Kane. He's ex-CIA. He knows something." Cole frowned. "Kane? Why does that name sound familiar?" Before Sarah could answer, the call cut off. A new text popped up. "We have Sarah. If you want to see her alive, come alone." Cole's jaw clenched. This just got personal. Cole's fingers tightened around the phone. His worst fear had come true. Sarah was now a hostage. He took a deep breath. "Think, Parker. Vincent Kane." The name rang in his head like an alarm. He had heard it before years ago, when he worked a case involving black ops missions that didn't officially exist. Kane had been a ghost, a name whispered in dark corridors. If Sarah was telling the truth, then Kane held the key to unraveling this entire setup. But first, he needed to save her. He stared at the message on his phone again. "Come alone." Yeah, right. Cole knew better than to walk into a trap. 2 hours later, he stood outside an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of Washington, D.C. The address had been sent in a second message, no further instructions. Cole scanned the area. No movement, no snipers, yet something felt off. A single black SUV was parked by the entrance. Its engine was still running. Cole stepped forward cautiously. Before he could react, a masked man appeared behind him. "Drop the gun," the man ordered. Cole hesitated. Then he heard the unmistakable sound of a hammer cocking back on a pistol. Reluctantly, he let the weapon fall to the ground. The masked man grabbed his arm and shoved him inside the warehouse. Inside, the air was thick with dust and gasoline. A single overhead light illuminated the large, empty space. And there, tied to a chair in the center of the room, was Sarah. Her lip was bleeding, her eyes filled with rage. "Cole, don't!" A figure stepped from the shadows. Tall, broad shoulders, silver hair. Cole's stomach dropped. Alan Mercer, his former boss. Cole's jaw clenched. "You?" Mercer smirked. "Ah, Parker. Always the stubborn one." Cole's mind raced. "Mercer set me up? I should have known," Cole muttered. "Who are you working for?" Mercer chuckled. "You think this is about me? No, Cole, this is much bigger than you. Much bigger than the FBI. Cole's muscles tensed. Mercer turned to Sarah. "Your friend here tried to dig where she shouldn't have." He pulled out a pistol. "And now she's a problem." Cole lunged forward, but two guards held him back. "Easy," Mercer said, raising the gun towards Sarah's head. "Now tell me, Parker, how far are you willing to go to keep your friend alive?" Cole's heart pounded. "Think fast." "Mercer," he said, keeping his voice even. "If you wanted me dead, I'd already be dead. So what do you really want?" Mercer smiled. "Smart. I need something from you. A little cooperation." Cole narrowed his eyes. "You're going to find Vincent Kane for me," Mercer continued, "and deliver him to us." Cole went still. "So that's what this is about," he said slowly. "You're hunting Kane." Mercer's smile vanished. "You don't have a choice, Parker," he said, stepping closer. "Find Kane or your friend dies." Cole's fists clenched. He looked at Sarah. Her eyes locked onto his. Then she nodded. It was the smallest movement, but Cole understood. She had a plan. "Fine," Cole said. "I'll do it." Mercer smirked. "Good." He turned to one of his guards. "Take them both outside. If Parker tries anything stupid, shoot them." The guard grabbed Cole's arm and yanked him toward the door. Sarah was forced to walk ahead of him. Then Sarah suddenly kicked backward, slamming her heel into the guard's knee. Cole spun and elbowed his captor in the throat. The guard choked, dropping his gun. Cole snatched it midair and fired twice. The second guard went down. Mercer pulled his gun, but Cole was faster. Bang! Mercer's gun flew from his hand as Cole's bullet hit his shoulder. "Run!" Cole shouted. Sarah didn't hesitate. She grabbed a fallen gun and bolted toward the SUV. Cole followed. More guards burst from the warehouse doors, opening fire. Bullets shattered the SUV's windows as Sarah jumped into the driver's seat. Cole leaped into the passenger seat just as Sarah floored the gas. The SUV screeched away into the night. They drove in silence for miles. Finally, Sarah exhaled. That was insane. Cole rubbed his forehead. "Yeah, and now we're officially enemies of the FBI." Sarah gave a dry laugh. "We always wanted to quit, right?" Cole smirked, but his mind was already working. "Vincent Kane," he said. "Mercer wants him for something. Which means Kane is either the key to clearing my name or the reason I was framed in the first place." Sarah nodded. "Then we find him before they do." Cole pulled out a burner phone. He had stolen earlier and dialed a number he hadn't used in years. After 2 rings, a deep voice answered. "Who is this?" Cole took a breath. "It's Parker." Silence, then, "Dead men don't call me Parker." "Kane," Cole said. "I need your help." A long pause. Then Kane said, "You just made the biggest mistake of your life." Cole gripped the phone. Vincent Kane's voice was rough, aged, but still carried the weight of a man who had spent his life in the shadows. "You just made the biggest mistake of your life," Kane repeated. Cole glanced at Sarah, who was watching him intently as she drove. "I don't have time for games," Cole said. "Mercer is after you, and I think you're the reason I was framed." Kane was silent for a long moment. Then he said, "Meet me at the old shipyard. Midnight. Come alone." The line went dead. Sarah frowned. "Come alone? That sounds like a trap." "Yeah," Cole muttered. "But it's the only lead we have." The old shipyard was abandoned, sitting at the edge of the city like a forgotten corpse. Rusted cranes loomed over dark water, and old shipping containers were stacked like a maze. Cole parked his stolen car a few blocks away and made his way on foot. Sarah had insisted on staying close just in case. The air smelled of salt and rust. A single dim light flickered near a docked ship. Then a figure stepped out from the shadows. Vincent Kane. He was older now, in his 60s, with grey stubble and piercing blue eyes. He wore a black jacket and gloves, like a man who never left loose ends. Cole kept his hands visible. "I need answers." Kane lit a cigarette. "You already know the answer, Parker. You just don't see it yet." Cole's jaw clenched. "Mercer is hunting you. He's willing to kill to get to you. Why?" Kane exhaled smoke. "Because I know the truth." Cole took a step closer. "What truth?" Kane flicked his cigarette into the water. "That Mercer isn't working for the FBI anymore." Cole stared at Kane. "What do you mean?" Kane leaned against a rusted container. "Mercer is part of something bigger. A shadow organization within the government. Black ops, assassinations, cover-ups. They operate outside the FBI, the CIA, hell. Even the White House doesn't know they exist." Cole's stomach turned. Kane continued. "They framed you because you were too clean, too by the book, and they needed someone to take the fall while they covered their tracks." Cole's fists tightened. "Covered what tracks?" Kane smirked. "You ever heard of Project Scorpion?" Cole shook his head. Kane sighed. "Exactly. Because everyone who knew about it is either dead or on the run." Cole's pulse quickened. Project Scorpion was a secret program, Kane explained. Mercer and his people were running illegal surveillance, assassinations, and human experiments. They were building a network of spies and killers, people who could disappear off the grid, who didn't officially exist. Cole's breath hitched. "Experiments?" Kane nodded. "Mind control. Behavioral programming. They wanted agents who didn't ask questions, who could be triggered with a single command." Cole felt a chill run through him. Kane's voice dropped lower. "And you, Parker? You were supposed to be one of them." Cole's mind reeled. "That's impossible. I was never part of any experiment." Kane studied him. "You sure about that?" Cole's head pounded. His childhood was normal, or so he thought. He had joined the FBI because he believed in justice. But now, doubt crept in. Mercer needed a fall guy, Kane continued. Someone clean, trustworthy, but also connected to the program. Cole shook his head. "I was never part of..." Then it hit him. Ever since childhood, he had experienced vivid dreams, memories that never made sense. Being in a cold, white room, needles, voices whispering commands. His stomach twisted. "Mercer didn't just frame you," Kane said. "He activated you." Cole's pulse raced. "What are you saying?" Kane sighed. "That there might be a part of you that isn't really yours." Sarah's voice suddenly crackled in his earpiece. "Cole," she whispered. "We have a problem." Cole turned sharply. "What is it?" "I'm watching the shipyard from a rooftop. There's movement. A lot of it." Cole exhaled sharply. "Mercer's men." "Yes," Sarah said. "And they're moving in fast." Kane smirked. "Took them long enough?" Cole turned to him. "You knew they were coming?" Kane shrugged. "Didn't matter. If you didn't show up, I would have been dead by sunrise anyway." Cole scowled. "We need to get out of here." Kane chuckled. "Not yet. There's something you need to see first." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small USB drive. "This," Kane said, tossing it to Cole. "This has everything. Project Scorpion. Mercer's operations. The proof you need." Cole caught it just as gunfire exploded around them. "Move!" Kane shouted. They sprinted through the shipyard as bullets ripped through metal containers. Cole returned fire, taking down 2 of Mercer's men. Kane led them toward an abandoned boat docked nearby. "This way!" They dashed up the ramp just as Mercer's SUV screeched to a halt at the docks. Mercer stepped out holding a megaphone. "Give it up, Parker!" His voice echoed. "You're surrounded." Cole gritted his teeth. "He's bluffing." Kane checked his gun. "Then let's call him on it." Cole and Kane opened fire, forcing Mercer's men to take cover. Sarah's voice crackled in Cole's earpiece. "I've got an escape route planned." "Follow my signal." Cole nodded. "Let's move." They ran through the docks, dodging bullets. Then Sarah stepped out from behind a crate. Relief hit Cole. "Sarah, we need to." She raised her gun, aimed it at Kane. Cole froze. Sarah's eyes were cold. "I'm sorry, Cole." Cole's stomach dropped. "But what are you doing?" Kane sighed. So this is the twist. Sarah's finger hovered over the trigger. I had no choice. Cole's chest tightened. "You were working for Mercer?" Her voice was pained. "Not at first. But Mercer had leverage. He threatened my family." Kane smirked. "That's how they always do it." Cole's mind raced. "Sarah, listen to me." She shook her head. "I don't want to do this, but if I don't, they'll kill everyone I love." Kane stepped forward. "Then you have a choice to make, Agent Blake." Sarah's grip trembled. Then a single gunshot rang out. Cole's breath caught as Sarah collapsed to the ground. Behind her, Mercer stood, lowering his smoking gun. He smiled. "Time's up, Parker." "Sarah!" Cole lunged forward as Sarah's body crumpled to the cold concrete dock. Blood pooled beneath her. Her breath was ragged, her face pale. Mercer stepped closer, his pistol still smoking. His face was unreadable. "You were useful, Agent Blake," Mercer said, "but loyalty is absolute, and yours was compromised." Cole's pulse pounded. "You didn't have to do that." Mercer smirked. "Oh, but I did. You see, Parker, weakness spreads like a disease. You let people think they have choices, and they start believing in things like hope." Cole's fingers twitched toward his gun. Not yet, he needed to think. Kane knelt beside Sarah, pressing a hand against her wound. "She's still breathing," he muttered. Sarah's lips trembled. "Cole, Shh," Cole said. "Just hold on." But Mercer took another step forward, raising his gun again. "Don't bother," he said. "She's dead either way." Cole gritted his teeth. "You really think I'm just going to let you walk away from this?" Mercer chuckled. "You still don't get it, do you? You never had control. You never had power. You were always just a pawn in a game you didn't even know you were playing." Cole's grip on his weapon tightened. "Enough." "Yeah," he muttered. Then he moved. Cole dropped low, yanking his gun from his holster in one fluid motion. Bang! His first shot clipped Mercer's shoulder. The older man stumbled back, cursing. "Kill them!" Mercer barked. Immediately, Mercer's strike team opened fire. Kane yanked Sarah behind a crate for cover as bullets tore through the dock. Cole rolled to the side, firing back, taking down two of Mercer's men in quick succession. His training kicked in: shoot, move, cover. Kane grunted as he pulled a second pistol. "You always bring me into the worst situations, Parker." "Shut up and shoot!" Cole growled. They both opened fire, dropping more agents. Mercer, clutching his wounded shoulder, disappeared into the shadows. "Coward," Cole muttered. But before he could chase Mercer, an explosion rocked the docks. Boom! The force knocked Cole off his feet. He hit the ground hard, ears ringing. Smoke and flames erupted from a stack of fuel barrels. Kane coughed, pulling Sarah's barely conscious form onto his back. "We need to move." Cole forced himself up, scanning through the smoke. Mercer was gone. Again, but the fight wasn't over, because now Cole had something Mercer wanted. He had the USB drive, and he was done playing defense. Cole, Kane, and the wounded Sarah drove through the night in a stolen black SUV. The city lights blurred past. Kane drove, one hand gripping the wheel, the other checking Sarah's pulse. "She's weak, but she'll make it," he said. Cole exhaled. He pulled the USB drive from his pocket, rolling it between his fingers. "This is it," he muttered. "This has the proof we need." Kane nodded. "But it won't be that simple." Cole smirked. "It never is." He plugged the USB into a burner laptop. The files loaded, thousands of encrypted documents. But one name stood out. Project Scorpion Command List. Cole clicked it. A list of agents' names appeared. Classified operatives. Some were redacted, but one name wasn't. Cole Parker. His blood ran cold. He clicked the file. A voice recording played. Mercer's voice. Subject Cole Parker. Primary protocol instilled. Activation complete. Awaiting kill command. Cole's breath hitched. Kane's jaw tightened. "Parker, this means..." Cole clenched his fists. "That I wasn't just framed." His hands shook. "I was programmed." Cole closed his eyes. Memories swirled, flashes of things that didn't make sense. The cold, white room, the voices, the tests. Had Mercer done something to his mind? Kane exhaled. "You were part of Project Scorpion. That's why they chose you. But if they haven't used the kill command yet, it means they need you alive for now. Cole's chest tightened. I need to end this. Kane raised a brow. You're talking like a man who already knows where Mercer is. Cole smirked. I do. He reached into his pocket and pulled out Sarah's phone. She had Mercer's personal number. Cole texted, "No more running. Let's end this, one-on-one." Mercer responded immediately. "Come alone. You know the place." Cole grinned. "Got you, old man." Kane sighed. "This is a suicide mission." Cole holstered his gun. "Then I'll make sure I take him with me." The meeting spot was an abandoned FBI black site, a place where secrets were buried, both figuratively and literally. Cole arrived alone. A storm rumbled in the distance, lightning splitting the sky. Mercer stood near a rusted table, a gun resting beside him. He looked calm, like a man who had already won. "You came," Mercer said. Cole stepped forward. "You lost the moment you pulled me into this." Mercer smirked. "You're still naive. Even if you kill me, the people I work for, they don't die. They replace me." Cole chuckled darkly. "That's the thing about ghosts, Mercer. They always come back to haunt you." Mercer's eyes narrowed. "Final words?" Cole pulled out the USB drive. "Everything on here is already uploaded to secure servers. The world will know about Project Scorpion." Mercer's expression finally cracked. Bang! Cole shot him through the heart. Mercer's body jerked, then collapsed to the ground. For a long moment, Cole just stood there. It was over. 3 weeks later, Cole stood on a quiet pier, watching the sunrise. His name was still on the FBI's most wanted list, but the world now knew the truth. Project Scorpion had been exposed. Sarah survived. She was in hiding. Kane had vanished, probably off to drink whiskey in some forgotten country. And Cole? He was still running. But this time it was on his own terms. A burner phone buzzed in his pocket. An unknown number. He answered. A robotic voice whispered, "We are not finished with you, Parker." Cole smirked. "Come find me." He hung up. Then he disappeared into the morning mist. 3 months had passed. Cole Parker had vanished. After exposing Project Scorpion and killing Alan Mercer, he had disappeared into the shadows. The FBI still had his face plastered on every watch list, and the remnants of Mercer's secret organization wanted him dead. But Cole wasn't just hiding. He was hunting. And tonight, in the neon-lit streets of Hong Kong, his next target was within reach. Cole adjusted the hood of his jacket and moved through the crowded night market. His target, Liam Drexler, was a former intelligence broker who had worked with Mercer. Now Drexler was trying to sell the remaining Project Scorpion files to the highest bidder. Cole couldn't let that happen. Drexler sat in an outdoor cafe, casually drinking a cocktail. He was lean, mid-40s, with the smirk of a man who thought he was untouchable. Cole approached, pulling out a chair across from him. Drexler barely looked up. "You're late." Cole smirked. "I wasn't invited." Drexler chuckled. "I heard you died." Cole leaned in. "You heard wrong." Drexler sighed. "So what now? You here to kill me?" Cole placed a USB drive on the table. "I want everything you have on Project Scorpion. All the names, all the locations." Drexler raised an eyebrow. "And what do I get in return?" Cole pulled out a suppressed pistol and rested it on the table, covered by his jacket. Drexler gulped. "Fair enough." He slid a laptop across the table and began transferring the files. As the progress bar ticked up, Drexler muttered, "You're in over your head, Parker. You think Mercer was the top of the pyramid. He was just a pawn. The real power? They haven't even started hunting you yet." Cole's jaw tightened. "Then I'll find them first." The laptop chimed. Transfer complete. Cole grabbed the USB. Then Drexler smirked. "Too late." A red laser dot appeared on Cole's chest. Sniper. It was a trap. Cole flipped the table, knocking Drexler back as the sniper fired. The bullet tore through the cafe chair where Cole had been sitting. Screams erupted as the crowd panicked. Cole grabbed Drexler by the collar and yanked him into the alley. "Who sent them?" Drexler gasped. "You don't understand. You're—" Bang! A second bullet pierced Drexler's skull. Cole dived for cover, cursing. Whoever these people were, they weren't taking chances. He scanned the rooftops. A sniper dressed in all black was already moving, packing up their rifle. Cole sprinted up the fire escape, chasing the assassin. The sniper leaped across the rooftop. Cole followed, dodging bullets as they fired back. Then the assassin turned. Cole froze. A woman, blonde, athletic, eyes cold as steel. She smiled. Then she spoke in a voice that made Cole's blood turn to ice. "Hello, Parker. It's been a long time." He knew that voice. Sarah Blake. Cole lowered his gun. "You're supposed to be dead." Sarah smirked. "And yet here we are." Cole's mind raced. He had seen Mercer shoot her. He had held her bleeding body. "How?" he demanded. Sarah tilted her head. "You of all people should know. Cole, Project Scorpion doesn't let its assets die." Cole's stomach twisted. "They turned you into one of them." Sarah's smile faltered. "I never had a choice." Cole clenched his fists. "Then let's end this." Sarah sighed. "You're not ready for what's coming, Cole. You think you're hunting them? They've been hunting you since the day you were born." She tossed a small phone to him. "Call this number when you realize the truth," she said. Then she stepped backward and fell off the roof. Cole rushed to the edge, but Sarah was gone. His pulse pounded. He looked at the phone in his hand. There was only one saved contact, labeled the director. Cole exhaled. The real game had just begun. Cole stared at the burner phone in his hand. The name on the screen, the director. Whoever this was, they weren't just another agent. They were the puppet master behind everything Project Scorpion. Mercer, even Sarah's return. Cole's thumb hovered over the dial button. "Think, Parker. Was this a trap, a test?" He took a deep breath and pressed call. The phone rang once, twice. Then a calm, deep voice answered. "Hello, Agent Parker. We've been expecting you." Cole's grip tightened. "Who are you?" A chuckle. "That's not the question you should be asking." "Fine," Cole growled. "Why did you frame me? Why did you bring Sarah back?" The director's voice remained eerily calm. "Because you were never supposed to leave." Cole's blood ran cold. "What?" The director exhaled as if speaking to a lost child. "You were part of Project Scorpion from the beginning, Parker. You were trained, conditioned, and programmed. But unlike the others, something in you resisted. So we let you believe you were free." Cole's heartbeat pounded in his ears. "No," he whispered. "You're lying." "Am I?" The director chuckled. "Tell me, Parker, why do you remember things that never happened? Why do you have skills you never trained for?" Cole's hands shook. He thought back to the memories that never made sense. The flashes of violence, the nightmares, the instincts that kicked in before he could even think. "Accept it," the director said. "You are not a rogue agent. You are an asset gone off script." Cole closed his eyes. "No, no, no, no." Then the director's voice turned sharper. "But we can fix you, Parker. Come in, and we'll undo the damage. You'll remember who you really are." Cole forced himself to breathe. "You think I'm just going to walk into your trap?" The director sighed. "Your choice, of course. But know this, your time is running out. You're not just being hunted by us anymore. There are others who want you dead. And trust me, they won't offer you a chance to come back." A pause. Then Sarah will be the one to bring you in. She's faster than you, smarter, and she won't hesitate next time. Click. The line went dead. Cole cursed and threw the phone against the wall, shattering it. He had just stepped into something far worse than he imagined. 2 days later, Cole was holed up in a run-down motel on the outskirts of Bangkok. He had the stolen files from Drexler, but they were encrypted beyond anything he had ever seen. He needed help, and there was only one person left he could trust. Half an hour later, he walked into a dimly lit cybercafe. A man in his 20s sat at a computer, headphones blaring music, a can of energy drink beside him. He looked up and grinned. Well, well, if it isn't Ghost Boy." Cole exhaled. "Hello, Ryder." Ethan Ryder was a former NSA hacker who had faked his own death 2 years ago. Now he lived off the grid, trading secrets for survival. Ryder tapped his keyboard. "So, what brings you to my humble establishment? Need a fake identity? Some bank hacks? A new cat video?" Cole slid the encrypted files across the table. "I need this decrypted." Ryder's grin faded. He plugged in the drive and scanned the data. Then his face went pale. Cole's stomach tightened. "What?" Ryder swallowed. "Dude, This is beyond classified. This is black site level. Kill you just for looking at it stuff. Can you break it?
Ryder hesitated.
Yeah, but it's going to take time. And once I do, whoever owns this data, they'll know. Cole nodded. Then start now. Ryder sighed. You really know how to bring trouble to my doorstep. Cole smirked. It's a gift. Somewhere in a high-rise office, Sarah Blake watched the security feeds. She had been tracking Cole for weeks. Now she had him. A voice behind her spoke. Are you ready? She turned. A tall man in a black suit stood there, arms crossed. His name was Elias Voss, one of the director's top enforcers. Sarah nodded. I'll bring him in. Voss smirked. No, Agent Blake, you will terminate him. Sarah stiffened. That wasn't the deal. Voss's eyes gleamed. The director has changed the mission. Parker is no longer a retrieval target. He is a liability. Sarah clenched her fists. Voss stepped closer. You don't have a choice. Either you kill Parker, he leaned in, or we kill you. Sarah's jaw tightened. She had betrayed Cole once. Could she do it again? Back at the cyber cafe, Ryder suddenly cursed. We've got a problem. Cole tensed. What? Ryder turned the screen. The encryption was breaking, but a silent alarm had been triggered. They know we have the files. Cole grabbed his gun. We need to move. Glass shattered. Bullets ripped through the cafe. Cole and Ryder dove for cover as masked gunmen stormed in. Ryder yelled, I really hate working with you. Cole fired back, taking down 2 men. Then a familiar voice rang out. Drop your weapon, Parker. Cole turned. Sarah stood in the doorway, gun raised. Their eyes locked. 1,000 unspoken words hung between them. Then she whispered, I'm sorry, and she pulled the trigger. Cole's world slowed as Sarah pulled the trigger. Click. No gunshot. No bullet. Just silence. Cole blinked. Sarah's gun wasn't loaded. Before he could react, Sarah threw the weapon aside and turned, firing at the masked gunman instead. Cole's instincts caught up. He rolled behind a counter, returning fire. You set me up? Cole shouted. Sarah ducked behind a flipped table. I just saved your life. Ryder, still hiding, screamed, Can we not do this now? Cole gritted his teeth and focused, dropping 2 more gunmen with precise shots. Sarah moved in sync with him, just like old times. Within seconds, the remaining attackers were either dead or fleeing. The cafe was destroyed. Smoke filled the air. Cole turned to Sarah, gun still raised. You better start talking fast. Sarah exhaled, hands raised. Listen to me. I was sent to kill you. Cole scowled. That much was obvious. But I didn't, she pressed. Because we're both being played. Cole narrowed his eyes. By who? Sarah hesitated. Elias Voss, he's the director's enforcer. He changed the mission. No capture, just execution. Cole absorbed that. So why the fake gun? Because I needed them to believe I was following orders until I wasn't. Ryder, still shaken, muttered, So let me get this straight. They sent you to kill him. But instead you helped him. Meaning they're going to kill you now too. Sarah nodded. Ryder exhaled. Great, so now we're all dead. Cole lowered his gun. Not if we hit them first. Sarah crossed her arms. You have a plan? Cole smirked. I always do. Ryder's computer beeped. The encrypted files were finally cracked. All 3 crowded around the screen. Lines of classified information scrolled past. Project Scorpion. Control sequence active. Subject list. Operational assets. Then one name flashed in bold letters. Cole Parker. Primary target. Cole clenched his jaw. They weren't just framing me. Sarah's face darkened. They were activating you. Cole scrolled down. More names. More agents. But one name stood out. Elias Voss. Current Director of Operations. Cole's fingers tightened around the mouse. We take out Voss, he muttered. We take down Project Scorpion. Sarah nodded. Easier said than done. Ryder pointed at the screen. Not impossible. Voss is scheduled to attend a high-security meeting in Dubai in 48 hours. Cole smirked. Then we're going to Dubai. 2 stolen passports. 1 private jet. Cole, Sarah, and Ryder landed in Dubai under new identities. The city gleamed in the sunlight, a billionaire's playground. Voss would be attending a secret Intelligence summit in one of the tallest skyscrapers. Security would be impenetrable. Cole grinned. Perfect challenge. Sarah scanned the skyline. So how do we get to him? Cole cracked his knuckles. We crashed the party. Disguised as wealthy investors, Cole and Sarah bluffed their way into the summit. Voss stood on the upper level, surrounded by bodyguards and high-ranking officials. Sarah whispered, "How do we get past them?" Cole smirked. "We don't." Sarah frowned. "What?" Cole walked right up to the guards. Before they could react, he raised his hands and said the last thing they expected. "Take me to Voss. He's expecting me." Voss turned as Cole was led into the private penthouse. He was tall, dressed in a sleek black suit with piercing grey eyes. The true mastermind. "You walked right into my hands," Voss said, amused. "Bold." Cole smirked. "I figured we should talk." Voss chuckled. "No, Parker. We're past talking." Then he tapped his watch. Cole's body froze. His vision blurred. His muscles locked. Voss whispered, "Did you really think you were free?" Cole collapsed to his knees. Sarah's horrified scream echoed in the background. Voss smirked. "Welcome back, Agent Parker." Then he uttered the words that shattered Cole's world. "Execute command, kill Sarah Blake." Cole's body locked up. His breath turned shallow. His fingers twitched. Something dark awakened inside him. A voice whispered in his skull, not his own. "Execute command, kill Sarah Blake." His vision blurred. His hands moved against his will. Sarah took a step back. "Cole?" He couldn't stop himself. His own gun rose, trembling, pointing directly at her head. Sarah's face twisted with horror. "No, Cole, fight it." His mind screamed, "Stop, stop, stop!" But his finger inched toward the trigger. Voss watched, amused. "Beautiful, isn't it? The programming is flawless. You were never truly free, Parker. You were always ours." Cole's hands shook violently. He fought the control. His heartbeat thundered in his ears. Sarah's eyes softened. "Cole," she whispered, stepping closer. "I know you're in there. You beat them once. Beat them again." His vision warped. Sarah's voice sounded far away. Voss grinned. "No use. You're already gone." Cole's finger tightened on the trigger. His arms ached from the struggle. The command sank deeper, pressing into his mind like claws. He could feel it happening. His body was no longer his. Then Sarah did something insane. She pressed her forehead against the gun's barrel. "Cole," she whispered. "If you have to pull the trigger, do it. But if there's anything left of you, don't let them win." His hand trembled violently. The voice inside him snarled, "Pull the trigger." His vision snapped red, and he pulled the trigger. Bang! Sarah collapsed. Cole gasped, staggering backward. His gun shook in his hands. Smoke curled from the barrel. Sarah lay motionless. Blood pooled beneath her. Voss laughed. Magnificent. Cole's mind fractured. He had lost. Then something cracked inside him. A flood of images. Memories he had never known. Training, beatings, conditioning, years of pain buried beneath his consciousness. The realization hit like a gunshot. They had never let him go. The free life he had lived was a lie. They had simply let him run, waiting for the right moment to flip the switch. And now he had killed the only person who had truly believed in him. Cole screamed. But his scream turned into laughter. A cold, broken laughter that sent a chill through the room. Voss frowned. "What?" Cole lifted his head, a dark smile spreading across his face. "Wrong move," he whispered. Then he moved. Before Voss could react, Cole lunged forward. Not as an agent, not as a fugitive. As a weapon, he snapped a guard's neck in one fluid motion, grabbed another's wrist, twisting it until bone cracked. Voss's face contorted in shock. "Impossible," he whispered. Cole grinned through blood-stained teeth. "You wanted the real me," he growled. "Here I am." He grabbed a fallen knife and slammed it into Voss's hand, pinning him to the table. Voss screamed. Cole leaned in. "You spent years trying to control me." His voice was eerily calm. "Now watch what happens when I stop caring." Then he turned to the last guard. The man trembled, dropping his weapon. "Please," the guard stammered. Cole smiled and shot him in the head. Blood splattered across the floor. Voss gasped in pain, pinned by the knife. You can't fight the programming." Cole's grin widened. "You're right." Then he stabbed Voss again. The director howled. Cole leaned in. You built me to be a killer. Now you get to see what happens when you take off the leash. Voss coughed, blood dripping from his mouth. You think this ends with me? He gasped. Cole tilted his head. Oh, I'm counting on it. He reached into Voss's coat pocket and pulled out a second burner phone. One number was saved. The True Director. Cole called it. A woman's voice answered. Is it done? She asked. Cole smirked. Not yet, but I'm coming for you next. A pause, then a chuckle. Good, the woman said. We've been waiting for you, Parker. Click. The line went dead. Cole exhaled. Then for the first time in his life, he felt completely free, and the world was about to burn. 2 days later, a black site deep in the Arctic Circle, a shadowy boardroom. 7 figures sat in darkness. A large screen flickered to life, showing live footage of Cole Parker. One figure spoke. The leash is broken. Another voice, softer, deadlier. Then we release the hunt. A final voice whispered from the shadows. Let the Reapers find him. And this time, make sure he doesn't come back. The screen went dark. The game was no longer about survival. Now it was war. Cole Parker stood over the corpse of Elias Voss, the man who had controlled him for years. Blood dripped from his fingers. His breath was ragged. His heart thundered. For a moment, the darkness inside him whispered, This is who you are now. A killer. A monster. Cole clenched his fists. No, this wasn't who he was. It wasn't who he wanted to be. But how could he come back from this? He had spent years being programmed, turned into a weapon. The people who had done this to him were still out there, hiding in the shadows, pulling strings. If he wanted to reclaim his humanity, he would have to destroy the people who took it from him. Not for revenge, for redemption. Cole turned to Sarah's lifeless body. A fresh wave of guilt crushed him. I killed her. His hands shook as he knelt beside her. Then he saw it. The bullet wound was off-center, lower than it should have been for a kill shot. His mind flashed back to the moment he pulled the trigger. His body had fought the command. He had missed on purpose. Sarah's fingers twitched. Cole's breath caught. She was still alive. He pressed his fingers to her neck, a faint pulse. Hold on, Blake, he muttered. I'm not losing you too. He grabbed her and carried her out of the penthouse, leaving the wreckage of his past behind. But he knew one thing. The hunt was far from over. 2 days later, Cole sat in an abandoned warehouse, watching over Sarah as she lay on a makeshift bed. Her breathing was shallow but steady. He had patched her up as best as he could, but she needed real medical care. The world believed Sarah Blake was dead, but Cole wasn't going to let her die. He glanced at the stolen phone in his hand, the one from Voss, the only clue he had to finding the true masterminds behind Project Scorpion. He had made a choice. He wouldn't just hunt them, he would expose them. He would burn their entire operation to the ground, not with bullets, but with the truth. But before he could start, a chilling message popped up on the stolen phone. A single word. Run. Cole's stomach dropped. Then he heard it. Footsteps, slow, calculated, coming closer. Sarah stirred. Cole! He grabbed his gun. Stay down. The lights flickered. Then a voice echoed from the darkness. We finally found you, Parker. Cole aimed his weapon toward the shadows. 2 figures stepped into the dim light. They wore black combat suits. Their faces were masked. The Reapers. Project Scorpion's elite assassins. Sarah groaned. Tell me that's not what I think it is. Cole exhaled. It's exactly what you think it is. The lead Reaper tilted his head. The director sends her regards. Then they attacked. Cole moved fast. The first Reaper lunged with a blade. Cole sidestepped, twisting the assassin's arm and snapping the wrist. The second Reaper fired. Cole rolled behind cover, grabbing Sarah and shielding her as bullets ripped through the warehouse. Sarah coughed. I hate this job. Cole tossed her a gun. Then shoot back. She smirked weakly and pulled the trigger, taking down the second Reaper with a headshot. Cole turned to the last one. Tell your boss I'm coming for her. The Reaper smirked. She's counting on it. Then the assassin bit down on something. Cole's eyes widened. A suicide pill. The Reaper collapsed, foaming at the mouth. Silence. Sarah coughed, wincing in pain. Well, that was dramatic. Cole frowned. This wasn't just an assassination attempt. It was a warning. A message from the director. We're always watching. Sarah groaned. What now? Cole pulled out the stolen phone and dialed the only number left. A voice answered. You survived. Cole gritted his teeth. Who are you? The voice chuckled. Your last chance at freedom. Cole narrowed his eyes. I don't play games. Neither do I, the voice replied. But if you want to end this, you'll need to come to Prague. Cole exhaled. And who am I meeting? A pause. Then the only person who ever escaped Project Scorpion completely. Cole froze. The voice continued. She's been in hiding for years, but she knows everything. The locations, the agents, even the director's true name. Cole's grip tightened. Why should I trust you? You shouldn't, the voice admitted. But it's your only shot at getting your life back. Sarah leaned in. Are we really doing this? Cole sighed. We don't have a choice. He pocketed the phone. In 12 hours, they'd be in Prague. And for the first time since this nightmare began, Cole Parker finally had hope somewhere in Prague. A woman in her late 50s sat in a dimly lit apartment, staring at an old black and white photo. The picture was of Cole Parker as a child. Her hands trembled as she whispered, He doesn't remember me. A voice behind her spoke, But he will. The woman exhaled. If we help him, we become targets again. The man behind her shrugged. We were never safe anyway. She sighed. Fine, tell him everything. She placed the photo down. The name on the back of the picture? Subject 0. The flight to Prague was silent. Cole Parker sat by the window staring at the clouds. Sarah Blake sat across from him. Her wound still healing, her expression unreadable. Neither of them spoke, because both knew the truth. This wasn't just another mission. This was about who Cole was before they made him a killer. And the answer might break him. They arrived in Prague just before dawn. The city was quiet, cloaked in mist. The address led them to a crumbling apartment in the outskirts. Cole's instincts screamed trap. Sarah readied her gun. We sure about this? No, Cole admitted. But we're out of options. He knocked. Silence. Then a soft, trembling voice. Come in, Cole. Cole's chest tightened. She knows my name? He pushed the door open. Inside, the apartment was small, dimly lit by a single lamp. And there, sitting in an old chair, was the woman from the photograph. She was older now, her face lined with grief. But her eyes... Cole knew those eyes. His hands shook. Who are you? The woman's lips quivered. Then she whispered the words that shattered his world. I'm your mother. Sarah's breath caught. What? Cole froze. That's impossible. The woman wiped a tear. No, my son. It's the truth. Cole's mind spun. His pulse pounded. Lies. This had to be a lie. He took a step back. No, my parents died when I was a kid. I was in the foster system. You were never supposed to know, the woman interrupted. Project Scorpion erased everything. She pointed to a dusty folder on the table. Your real name isn't Cole Parker, she said softly. Cole's hands trembled as he opened the file. The birth certificate inside made his stomach drop. Name, Gabriel Cole. Mother, Evelyn Cole. Father, classified. Cole's head pounded. Gabriel Cole. The name felt familiar, a whisper from a life he never knew. He looked at the woman, his mother, and for the first time since this nightmare began, he felt like a lost child. Tell me everything, he whispered. Evelyn's lips trembled, and she began to speak. Project Scorpion was never about making agents, Evelyn said. It was about creating them. She took a deep breath. They didn't recruit you, Cole. They made you. Cole's blood turned to ice. What do you mean? Evelyn's voice broke. You weren't just trained. You were engineered. Before you were even born, they altered you. Sarah's eyes widened. Are you saying Cole is a weapon? Evelyn whispered. From the start. Cole's stomach twisted. You were part of the Genesis program, Evelyn continued. The first generation of genetically enhanced operatives. The government wanted to breed the perfect soldier. No fear, no hesitation, no free will. Cole's chest tightened. His whole life, his memories, his identity was a fabrication. Then why did they let me go? He whispered. Evelyn exhaled. Because you were too strong, too unpredictable. You were their greatest success, but also their greatest fear. She pointed to the file. There was one other like you. the only other survivor of the Genesis program. Cole flipped the page, and his breath stopped. A photo. Dark hair, cold blue eyes. Elias Voss. Cole's stomach turned. Voss wasn't just his enemy. He was the first, and Cole was meant to replace him. Sarah whispered, "Cole, if Voss was part of the program, that means—" "He wasn't the top," Cole finished. "There's still someone above him." Evelyn nodded. "The true director," she whispered. "The one who started Project Scorpion. The one who still controls it." Sarah clenched her fists. "Who is it?" Evelyn's lips quivered. "I don't know their real name," she admitted, "but I know their code name." Cole's pulse pounded. Evelyn took a deep breath. "They call her the Architect." Cole sat in silence. He had spent years running, fighting, killing. But now he knew the truth. He wasn't just a fugitive. He wasn't just a victim. He was the last piece of an experiment that was never meant to fail. Sarah spoke first. "So what do we do?" Cole slowly closed the file. Then he stood. "We end it." Sarah smirked. "Sounds like a suicide mission." Cole exhaled. "Probably." Evelyn grabbed his hand. "Cole, I just got you back." He looked at her, eyes heavy with sorrow. "I know, Mom," he said softly. "But if I don't stop them, they'll never stop coming." Evelyn's tears fell. "Then promise me one thing." Cole held her gaze. "Come back," she whispered. Cole's jaw tightened. "I'll try." Then he turned and walked into the night. In a high-rise tower somewhere in the world, a woman sat in the darkness, watching security feeds. She had seen everything. She smiled. A man in a black suit stood behind her. "Parker is coming for you." The woman sipped her wine. "Good," she murmured. "It's about time." She turned to the window, staring into the city below. "Activate all remaining assets," she ordered. "Let's finish what we started." The war had just begun. Cole Parker had spent his entire life running, fighting and searching for the truth. Now he finally had it, and it was time to end this. Sarah sat across from him in a stolen car, her wounds healing but her eyes sharp. "You sure about this?" she asked. Cole tightened his grip on the steering wheel. "Yeah." They had one last target. The Architect. The woman who had created Project Scorpion. The woman who had stolen his life. Tonight she would die. The Architect's base was hidden inside a private compound in the Swiss Alps. Armed guards, surveillance drones, advanced security. It was a fortress. Cole parked a mile away. He turned to Sarah. "Once we're in, there's no turning back." Sarah smirked. "Since when do we ever turn back?" Cole exhaled. "Let's finish this." They moved through the shadows, taking down guards silently. They reached the main entrance. A biometric scanner controlled the doors. Sarah frowned. "We need a code." Cole smirked. "Or a hand." He grabbed a fallen guard's wrist and pressed it against the scanner. Beep. The doors opened. "After you," Sarah whispered. They stepped inside. The hunt was over. Now came the war. Inside, the compound was sleek, futuristic, cold. It felt like stepping into a machine. And at the heart of that machine, she was waiting. The Architect stood at the top of a staircase, dressed in white. Her silver hair was tied back, her expression unreadable. "Welcome home, Cole," she said softly. Cole raised his gun. Not another word. The Architect smiled. "You still don't understand, do you?" Cole's jaw clenched. "I understand everything. You made me. You tried to control me. And when I broke free, you hunted me like an animal." She tilted her head. "And yet, you came back, just as I planned." Cole's breath hitched. Sarah whispered, "Don't listen to her." The Architect took a step forward. "You were never a fugitive, Cole," she murmured. "You were a test, the final experiment, and you passed." Cole's grip tightened on his gun. "I'm not your experiment. I'm not your experiment," Cole growled, his finger hovering over the trigger. The Architect smiled, unfazed. "Oh, but you are. You always were. And you still don't see it, do you?" Sarah tensed beside him. "Don't listen to her." Cole's heartbeat thundered in his ears. "What are you talking about?" The Architect stepped forward, her voice eerily calm. "Every choice you've made, every step you've taken, was designed." Cole's grip on his gun tightened. She continued, "Your escape, your rebellion, we allowed it. It was all part of the final test." Cole's breath hitched. Sarah shook her head. No, we broke free. The architect smirked. Did you? She tapped a small tablet on her wrist. The screens lining the room flickered to life. Cole and Sarah froze. The footage showed every moment of his past on replay. His supposed escape, his battles, even his most private conversations. Sarah's injury, their journey to Prague, his meeting with Evelyn. Cole's world tilted. They were watching everything. The architect's smile widened. "We'd never lost control, Cole. We just let you believe you had it." Cole's chest tightened. His whole life, his entire fight was another program, another experiment. Sarah whispered, "She's lying." But the doubt had already set in. Cole clenched his fists. "Then tell me this, if I was never free, why let me get this far?" The architect tilted her head. "Because the experiment is almost complete. And now you must make the final choice." She gestured to a red button on the console behind her. "Kill me or take my place." Silence. Sarah's eyes widened. "Cole, don't listen to her." The architect's voice was a whisper. "You were meant to lead Project Scorpion. You were never the prey, Cole. You were the heir." Cole's breath caught. "Become what you were meant to be," she said, taking another step forward. "Or burn everything down, including yourself." Cole's hands shook. The darkness inside him, the part of him that had been programmed to obey, he pulled at him. She was offering him power. No more running, no more hiding, just control. Sarah grabbed his arm. "Cole, look at me." His eyes locked onto hers, and in that moment, everything became clear. Power didn't make him free. Choice did. He took a deep breath. Then he raised his gun, not at Sarah, not at himself, at the architect. Her smirk faded. "So that's your answer?" Cole's voice was steady. "It's the only one I've got." Bang! The shot was clean. The architect stumbled backward, her eyes filled with shock. "You," she whispered, gripping the wound in her chest. Cole lowered his gun. "No more games, no more control." She collapsed to the ground. Alarms blared throughout the facility. Sarah grabbed his arm. "We need to go." But Cole wasn't finished. He turned to the console. The red button. The architect's last words echoed in his mind. "Kill me or take my place." He did neither. Instead, he pulled a small USB drive from his pocket, the same one Ryder had cracked months ago. With one last move, he inserted it into the system and initiated a full data leak. A message flashed on the screen. "Project Scorpion system wipe and global exposure. 10 seconds. Sarah's eyes widened. "Cole, what did you do?" He turned to her. "I made sure the world knows everything." The architect gasped, coughing blood. "You fool. You have no idea what you've unleashed." Cole stepped back. "You kept me in the dark my whole life. Now let's see how you like it." The facility shook. The walls rumbled. Sarah grabbed his arm. "We need to move now!" They ran. Behind them, the servers exploded. Data flooded every intelligence agency, every journalist, every dark corner of the web. Project Scorpion was no longer a secret. It was over. The sun rose over the Swiss Alps. Cole and Sarah stood on a cliffside, watching the burning remains of the architect's empire. Sarah exhaled. "It's really over." Cole closed his eyes. Yeah. For the first time, there were no voices in his head, no commands, no programming, just silence. And for the first time, he was okay with that. Sarah nudged him. "So, what now?" Cole looked at her. "We live," he said simply. She smiled. "Sounds boring." Cole chuckled. "Let's give it a shot." And together, they walked toward a future that was finally their own. Months later, Cole Parker Gabriel. Cole sat in a quiet cafe in South America drinking coffee. No more aliases. No more running, just peace. A newspaper sat beside him. The headline read, "Project Scorpion exposed global intelligence agencies in turmoil." The world now knew the truth, and Cole was finally free. He heard footsteps approaching. Sarah slid into the seat across from him, smirking. "You really think we're done?" Cole raised an eyebrow. "Aren't we?" She smirked. "Not exactly. There's still plenty of bad guys out there." Cole chuckled. "You saying we should do something about it?" Sarah leaned back, sipping her coffee. "Let's give it a shot." Cole smiled. For the first time, he wasn't fighting because he had to. He was fighting because he chose to. And this time, he was fighting as a free man. Cole's journey ends not with revenge, but redemption. He didn't just defeat Project Scorpion, he exposed it to the world, ensuring no one else would suffer like he did. Now he and Sarah have a future. A real one. Like, share, and subscribe for more.